In today's video, I'm going to show you the very basics of how to set up your own Amazon PPC campaign. Now, without a doubt in my mind, I can tell you that Amazon PPC is probably one of the most hardest parts to learn when it comes to selling on Amazon FBA. Therefore, I'll make sure that this tutorial is going to be kept as simple as possible. That being said, it is still a crucial part of every new product when it comes to launching it on the marketplace. I mean, think about it. How else will customers find your product on page 10 without any reviews or feedback? You're going to have to put some money behind PPC to forcefully push your product up on the first page so customers get a chance to see it. Think about Amazon PPC as the initial part of the snowball effect. You need to do whatever you can to make that initial push and get those very first few sales. Once the algorithm picks up your product and you have got a few sales, it will naturally and organically push your product up to page 2 and eventually and hopefully page number 1, where all of the sales are made. What's up, you guys? It's Ben and welcome back to my channel where we talk about everything there is relating to business, finance, and of course, selling on Amazon. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, consider subscribing. Now, before we get into the tutorial, I want to make sure, guys, that you know that Amazon PPC is a double-edged sword. If you do it right, you will push your product up on the first page with a very small initial budget and start getting organic sales immediately. If you do it wrong, you will overspend on ads, waste your budget on keywords that simply don't work for you, and start making some big losses. I mean, you really don't want me to get into some of the horror stories I heard out there. Remember, when it comes to selling on Amazon, your job is to make those sales as profitable as possible. You want to spend the least amount of money to get the most amount of sales. Amazon, on the other hand, wants you to spend as much as you possibly can on PPC because it helps them, but not necessarily you. Therefore, you have to be very careful next time you speak to one of these PPC specialists who will advise you to increase your daily budget as well as keyword bids to get you onto the very first page. Yes, that may be the case and you may get onto the very first page, but at what cost? And with that being said, let's get straight to the tutorial. Right, guys, so for those of you that haven't sold on Amazon before, this is usually what an Amazon seller professional dashboard looks like. You get plenty of marketplaces, orders, today's sales, buyer messages, buy box wins, and so on and so forth. Now, for some of you who are literally just about to start, the dashboard may look a little bit different, of course, with much less sales and so on. But what's important here to know, guys, is that if you are going to set up your own Amazon PPC campaign, the very first thing you need to do is go into the campaign manager in the advertising box. Then once we clicked on campaign manager, you will have a choice to create your own campaign. But before we get into that, I just want to explain exactly what do all of these columns mean, because you're going to have to know them extremely well if you're going to run a successful Amazon PPC campaign. So the very first thing is sales, okay? This is pretty simple, but this is really important for you to know because you can compare how many sales of your total sales comes from Amazon PPC and how many of them are organic. For example, in my case, I have sold over £2 million worth of product since I started selling on Amazon, and over 15% of them have come from PPC. Therefore, it is a significant portion, and therefore I should keep an eye out exactly how much I spend each and every single month on Amazon's advertising. Next up, this is how much exactly I have spent in total over my lifetime. And as you can see, it's £110,000. Now, for those of you thinking, well, wow, that is a lot of money. But that £110,000 have got me £354,000 of money in sales on Amazon FBA. Now, granted, this does still sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But problem is that I have to spend this kind of money because then with extra sales, the algorithm will pick up my product as one of the best selling products out there and push my organic ranking up onto the first page as well. So even though I don't make, or sometimes I may not make that much money through PPC, it will still push up my organic listing ranking up to the first page where I will make more sales organically. So keeping an eye out on sales spend is very, very important, and you always have to keep an eye out almost on a weekly basis. The next thing up you should know is also how many clicks your listings are getting. Now, this is the amount of clicks I've gotten across all of my products, across all of my campaigns, and I run an Amazon PPC campaign for each and every single one of my products. Some of them will take more of my budget, some of them will take less. However, I do run a campaign on every single one. And as you can see across the board, I have got now over 303,000 amounts of clicks, okay, from these PPC campaigns. And given the fact it's only 15% of all of my sales since I started selling on Amazon, I can only imagine of how many clicks all of my products have gotten since I started selling. It must be well in the millions now. The next one is really, really important also to understand, and that is cost per click, and that is 0.37p per average. Okay, so what this means basically is that across all of my budgets, across all of my campaigns, the average amount of money I spend per click right now is around 37p. Now this will depend on the niche that you get into. If you go into a more expensive niche that is on average price 30, 40, 50 pounds, then the cost per click is going to be higher as well. Whereas if you go into a lower price niche, the cost per click can easily be in the 15 to 20p. Now, what's important here, guys, to understand is that the cost per click is like a bidding system. The highest bidder always wins, and therefore if you outbid someone, you will get onto the first page. So therefore, having a lower cost per click basically means that that particular niche is less competitive when it comes to Amazon's PPC. So therefore, keeping an eye out of what is your usual average cost per click across each and every single one of your products is also really important, because then it will give you an idea of how competitive the landscape is on that particular category, on that particular niche, and it will also give you an idea of how much money you should be spending on each and every single one of your bids and how much budget you should be allocating. And then the last one I want to speak to you before about creating into the actual campaigns is ACoS, and that stands for average cost of sales. And this number I want to be as low as possible. Okay, now here right now is 31.34%. What does that mean? Well, in layman's terms, basically, if one of my products costs £10, okay, the sales price is £10, then on average, I spend about £3 on advertising, okay? So 31% means it's 31% of the sales price. If my product was £100 and the ACoS is 31%, then I would spend £31. So effectively, your number one goal is to keep this ACoS number as low as possible. The products and the keywords that have the lowest amount of ACoS are the ones that are bringing you the most amount of profit. The ones that have the lowest amount of ACoS, those are the ones that you should be focusing on. Now, what's also important, guys, is to calculate what is your break-even ACoS. Basically, what that means is at what point you start losing money. So, for example, if the ACoS for some of my keywords or some of my campaigns was 50, 60, 70%, then even with each and every single sale, I will be losing money because I lose the product and I actually spent 60 to 70% of that sales price on ads, okay? And this is something that Amazon will never ever tell you, and that is to calculate your break-even ACoS. And this is definitely something that you guys should learn and calculate for yourself, because then you will get an idea which keywords work and which ones don't, which ones bring you profit and which ones don't. And with that being said, guys, now let's move on to actually creating a campaign. And it's really, really simple to do in the very beginning. And we'll go on create campaign here. The next thing is you get to choose your campaign type. Now, if you're just starting out, you may only have one choice, and that is the sponsored product choice, which is what I'm going to explain in this video. But I would just want to briefly touch on sponsored brands and sponsored display as well. Sponsored brands basically means it's a campaign where you see those products at the very top of each and every single Amazon's page. So if you, for example, type in vitamin C, you will see the brand of vitamin C will be at the top, and they will usually advertise 2 or 3 of their products at the very top of the page. Now, this is really, really good, and it brings a lot of awareness to the actual brand that is selling on Amazon. The problem is usually going for sponsored brands, it's very, very expensive, because usually if the bids here are around 30 to 40p on average, the bids on sponsored brands usually anything between £1 to £2. So it is very, very good for raising brand awareness. However, if you're just starting out and you don't really build a brand and you just want to start selling some products and make some money, then usually stay away from sponsored brands, because it will just rinse through your Amazon PPC campaigns like crazy. And next up, we have sponsored displays as well. And this is basically where you see some of those videos sometimes when you actually go for, especially in the clothing brand, in the clothing niche, if you go on to, let's say, a sweater or something, and you will see a model actually modeling that particular sweater. This is what sponsored display is as well. Now, this is a very, very effective tool of actually getting noticed as well, because you see all of these pictures and all of a sudden there is a video of a woman showing a potential sweater. Of course, that will catch your eye and most likely will get you to click. But once again, just like sponsored brands, those are very, very expensive, because there is only one slot and everybody everybody is bidding for that slot. Therefore, those bids go up very, very quickly as always too. So these two are only really applicable for people who are trying to build their brands and have very, very high Amazon's advertising budgets. For me personally, I usually spend no more than £20 per campaign per day, and that will be rinsed very quickly, probably by lunchtime, if I use sponsored brands to advertise my products. So sponsored products is really, really simple. This is where you actually pay Amazon and you will actually see those products as sponsored, and you have a little sponsored icon underneath it to show that, hey, this particular seller has basically paid Amazon to be on the very first page. That particular listing is sponsored. And if you ever click on that listing, just when you're browsing on Amazon, that particular seller has paid for that click, usually anything in the realm of 20p to all the way up to £1. Okay, so we're going to click on continue because this is the one that we're going to create today. Now, very first things first is add group name. Okay, so what we're going to do here is just put testing. Okay, but usually what you want to do is you just want to put in your product name, because all of these campaigns will be lined up at the very end, and in the very beginning it's pretty simple. However, once you start selling 10, 15, 20 different products, it's really important to have proper ad group names, because then you know which campaign is for which product. Otherwise it will get very, very messy and it will take a lot longer for you to manage these campaigns later down the line. Next up, we have to choose one of the products that we want to sell, effectively which product we want to advertise on. So we're just going to click on, let's say, this one. Okay, we're going to go all the way down. Then we have to select automatic targeting or manual targeting. Now, I personally always choose manual targeting. This basically means where I myself will tell Amazon what keywords will I want them to target my my campaign. Okay, I want them to know exactly this is what the seller requires for us to target. Automatic campaign, on the other hand, it allows Amazon to make their own decision. So let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, your title says something to do with gym mats, exercise, and so on and so forth, right? Well, that title has about 150 characters in it. Well, what Amazon is going to use is sometimes they will use the keywords that not necessarily meet your criteria. They not necessarily describe your product. So let's say if you have gym, mat, and then exercise, they may choose the words that say gym and exercise, and therefore they will push your yoga mat onto gym and exercise keywords that not necessarily may sell your yoga mat, and therefore you may actually miss out on a lot of potential sales and still waste your budget, because when people type in gym exercise, they may still show some interest in your yoga mat, but this is not exactly what they're looking to buy. Therefore, I really want to be specific as to what kind of keywords I want Amazon to target my products and which ones not. So therefore, all the time, I will choose manual targeting over automatic targeting. Going forward, next we will choose keyword targeting or product targeting. So basically, I always go for keyword targeting because this is basically where we target keywords as opposed to products. Products, on the other hand, is basically where you type in all of the products that you want your ad to appear when somebody clicks on that particular product. So let's say, for example, I have a yoga mat. If another person is selling their yoga mat and they're making £100,000 in sales each and every single month, I may want to show my product on their page underneath as advertised products if when people click on that yoga mat, that best-selling yoga mat effectively. However, that being said, that really depends on how well that yoga mat is doing. If that yoga mat all of a sudden drops down in sales, then basically me targeting that particular product may not make that much sense. Therefore, always, guys, getting back to the basics, you want to make a simple manual campaign and you want to target keywords, not products. Okay? Next up, we're going to go on to bid, and then we're going to put in default bid. Okay, default bid, and straight away it shows me that the default bid should be 86 pence. That is not what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to do a lot less. I'm going to start with 50p. Okay, this basically means that for each and every single keyword in the very beginning, I'm going to bid no more than 50p. Now, I made that click may cost 40p, 41p, 42, 43, 45, 48, but it will never go above 50. Okay, I am basically telling Amazon under no circumstances should I ever bid more than 50p per keyword. Okay, and once that's done, I'm simply going to add all of the suggested keywords from my listing. And as you can see here right now, it's at 363 keywords. Now, this is all you need to do when you're just starting off your very first campaign. Okay, that's it. As you come down here, you have to add in negative keywords, which right now we don't have any, but basically to explain it to you, this is where we actually type in the keywords that we specifically tell Amazon not to show our product on. So in that yoga mat example, maybe gym and exercise together would not be a good idea for us to advertise a yoga mat on. So this is where we would put that negative exact keyword phrase in. Okay, so once that's done, we go all the way down. We choose dynamic bids down only. So basically that means we will only accept bids lower than 50p and not higher. Whereas dynamic bids basically means you will allow Amazon to raise your bids up to 100% in order for you to get onto the very first page. So this basically allows Amazon to bid up to £1 in this case if they feel it's going to convert into a sale or if they feel it's going to get you onto the very first page. I personally do not want to give Amazon that amount of freedom because guess what? They will push that up as much as they possibly can, and therefore I will only do down only. Okay? Settings. Over here, we're going to choose campaign name again. So this is the same as the ad group, just basically put in your product name. Start, which is 29th of July, which is today. And usually I leave the end date blank, okay? Because what happens is that if you do put an end date, once that end date goes past, it will archive the campaign and you will have to create a brand new campaign. And I personally don't want to do that. I can always pause the campaign if I need to. So therefore I will leave the end date as nothing. Okay, and here is the daily budget. Now this is where a lot of my students get confused and they ask, okay, should I spend £5? Should I spend £10, 15, 20 pounds, whatever? In my personal opinion, for me personally, I always choose no more than £20. Now, just because I say £20 doesn't mean I'm automatically going to spend £20 each and every single day. That is, again, what I'm allowing Amazon to spend on my behalf. No more than £20. In most cases, matter of fact, once the keywords are optimized, etc., I will not even spend more than £10 per day. So therefore, having a £20 budget, in my personal opinion, it's a reasonable goal. It's a reasonable budget in my opinion. Now, if you are running on a relatively lower budget and maybe you have less than £1,000, you may want to drop that down to £10 to £15, but then the amount of data, the amount of keywords that you get will be a lot less as well, and that campaign may take a little bit longer to gather all the information to get those best selling keywords. Okay, now this is now what I'm going to show you is once you click launch campaign, this is what a campaign actually looks like. Okay, this is an actual campaign of mine that I've spent £5,235 on with an ACOS of 22%. Now, given the fact that the break-even ACOS for this is 35, this campaign is doing extremely well for me. Now, the cost per click is on 53 pence. However, given this particular product is actually quite expensive, 53 pence is actually not too bad. Another thing that I haven't spoken before is actually the amount of impressions. Now, impressions basically shows how many times has all of the keywords effectively shown up, okay, on the page. Not the customer didn't actually buy the product or didn't actually even click on the product, but it has shown up on their page as they were scrolling through. And as you can see, given the fact that I'm getting almost 3 million impressions since the very beginning of this campaign, clearly those ads, those keywords are showing up at some point, one or another. Okay, now when it comes to campaigns, guys, okay, and this is really, really important for you to understand, you have to really think of it as a funnel. Okay, as a funnel. In the very beginning, you want to give all of the keywords a chance because neither you nor I know which keywords are going to work. Okay, some of them will get sales, but at a very, very high cost. Some of them will not get any sales, but will still get clicks. Some of them will get very few clicks, but it will actually highly convert into sales. Now, that last bit, those very few clicks that end up in a lot of sales, those are the ones that we want to find out. And that is the whole purpose of the campaign, is basically to narrow down the funnel as much as you can to only target the keywords that work extremely well for you. Maybe you get 5 clicks and out of those 5 clicks, you get 3 sales. That is far better than getting 10 clicks and 4 sales, because those 10 clicks have to be paid for. So those high converting keywords is exactly what we're trying to target and is what we're trying to find out when we are creating our campaign and then optimizing our campaign as the time goes. And the way to optimize this campaign is to get as much data as possible. This is why I keep telling my students to potentially increase the daily budget a little bit in the very beginning, because that way you will get all of that data quicker. If your daily budget is £5 to £10, it will not take a week to get that data. It will take you maybe a month, and you want to start selling profitably as quickly as possible. Okay, so To show you what I do and how exactly I optimize my campaign is we're actually going to go down here, and these are all of the keywords for all of my for one of my products. Okay, now here you can see the bid is at 50p. It's gotten this amount of impressions, this amount of clicks, and it's actually got, so out of 1,177 clicks, it's got me 3,569 pounds in sales. Okay, but this is not what I focus on. My number one focus, guys, and this is why I'm sorting this, is actually ACOS. Okay, advertising cost of sales, or average cost of sales. For 10 pounds of sales, I spend £2. And given that my break even is at 35%, I am making a decent amount of profit on top of the sales that I am making through this keyword. Hence why I am bidding it at 50p. Now, if the ACOS was actually lower, basically better, if the ACOS was 15%, maybe 12, maybe 10, then I would increase that bid even more, because by increasing the bid, basically shows to Amazon that I'm really willing to spend as much as I possibly can, because that particular keyword is converting extremely well for me. Okay, and in this situation it is converting extremely well for me because I've gotten 1,177 clicks, and out of that I got £3,000 in sales at 20% ACOS, which is pretty good. But what's also interesting, guys, is to run down the list and actually see another one. For example, this next keyword is doing even better for me because it's getting so many more impressions. Okay, I've spent £2,000 on that particular keyword, so more than double the first one, with the cost per click 56p, and I got £10,000 in sales. So if I all of a sudden pause that particular keyword, I would not have those £10,000 in sales. And at 21%, once again, I am making a 14% profit margin on all of those sales. So why not? Why not sell? And remember, guys, the algorithm, the way it works is that the more overall sales your product gets, whether it's organic, whether it's PPC, the more it will push up your organic listings ranking up onto the first page. If all of these sales did not exist, my organic listings rank would not be as high as it is. This is why campaign and understanding PPC is so important, because if you understand it properly and you can make them profitable, then it will push up your overall sales. Okay, this is the number one key, guys. And also, once again, the ACOS is 21%. Hence why the bids are at 50. Same thing goes for this one, same thing goes for this one, same thing goes for this one, same thing that goes for this one. All of these keywords are profitable, and they did take a while for me to find out, because all of them, as you can see, are under 35%. As we come down, okay, here is where the bid changes to 40p, okay? These are now keywords that are still working for me. They are still making me money, but now the ACOS is slightly higher at 25%. Therefore, my margins are now starting to shrink. And because my margins are starting to shrink, I want to focus my bidding on the higher ACOSs, the ones that are working better for me. The ACOSs that are at 25% and above, I want to give less of my budget. I want to bid less, which is why these are at 40p. Fast forward to 30, and as you can see, it brings down to 30p. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to tell to Amazon is that as the ACOS comes down, my bids will increase. As the ACOS goes up, so will my bids will decrease. I don't want to spend money, waste money effectively on keywords that simply don't work for me. And as you can see, that is very evident, because as we go to 33%, 36%, this is where my break-even price is. I am no longer spending any money. This was at 10p because I still wanted to give it a chance, but eventually you can see it was just simply paused. So therefore, these are no longer working for me. Okay, and that's pretty much it, guys. Remember, when it comes to Amazon's PPC, ACOS is your number one, the most important thing that you need to remember. ACOS, the advertising cost of sales. It's the profit that you make after each and every single sale. It's all well and good making sales when you're just starting selling on Amazon, but what happens is that if you don't pay attention to Amazon PPC, if you allow Amazon to do what they want with your budget, then you may find yourself at a point where you have to restock after all of those sales that you've made, but you haven't actually gotten any profit back. Amazon doesn't have anything to pay you, because all of that profit, all of that money that you gather from your customers is going to Amazon for their PPC. Therefore, you have to be really careful when it comes to PPC, to always check on a daily basis, at least at the initial stages, to make sure that majority of your money is going on to keywords that are working for you. Now, in some cases, if you start up a PPC campaign and let's say after a day or two, you only have a few thousand of impressions, basically your bids did not work, none of them got spent, etc., then maybe that particular niche is slightly more competitive. So instead of setting a default bid at 50p, you may set your default bid at 60 or 70p. To therefore get some traction. Like I said, guys, in the very beginning, the PPC campaigns, you should see it as a funnel, and you need to get as much data as possible. And sometimes that data is going to cost you a little bit more. Sometimes that data is going to cost you a little bit less. And with that being said, guys, that's pretty much it for today's video. I really hope you found it useful. If you did, then please don't forget to check the links down below for my own personal mentorship, where I myself will help you and guide you every step of the way to make sure you don't make any of those newbie mistakes that new sellers tend to make. You don't make any mistakes that can cost you potentially a lot of money. And I myself would actually look over your PPC campaigns to make sure you do it the right way. Otherwise, guys, if you're running on a relatively lower budget, but you still want to use some of the business tools that I use and recommend, then please don't forget to check the links down below for Awesome, by far the most reliable e-commerce accountants out there in the market, or Helium 10, the best product research tool that I myself have been using over the last 4 years. And with that being said, guys, that's pretty much it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.